You know what's so beautiful about the movies this year is the representation of Black people on screen and Black women on screen. It's really diverse. Judas and the Black Messiah, next to the 40-year-old version, next to On the Rocks, next to Ma Rainey. I mean, that's like beautiful spread. Like that's, nobody can kind of decide what it looks like to be a Black woman because they're all very different things.
If the power of the right to vote was truly made available to everyone in America, it would change the future of this nation. It's all of these communities that have to fight, but have to do so in coalition, because by ourselves, none of us are powerful enough to get it done, but together we make progress. And I'd love to hear you talk about why you decided to take the reins and do the work that you do.
I took the reins out of necessity because there aren't movies that are being done and developed with anyone like me in mind. And I'm a 55-year-old dark-skinned woman in Hollywood. I'm still in maid, urban mother crying over her dead son's body in the middle of the road category. Even the most basic fundamentals of what makes a woman sometimes does not trickle down to me. And so in order for me to get those roles and be seen in that way, I had to create and develop them myself. I had to find those emerging artists myself who are on the periphery. You know, the Tyrone Washingtons and the Shaniqua Watkins are writing roles for me.
But they want to call me Mother Blues, that's all right with me. It don't hurt none.
My undergrad's in theater, and I started as an actor, and I just remember not seeing roles for Black women that I would see in my head. And I would see the award season every year and say, why isn't a Black woman winning? You know, and I always said, I know I want to write roles like this, you know? And first, I have to be able to tell the story in a way that is authentic and true and from my heart. But I also know that our stories are worthy and valid in order to be considered in awards conversations.
It rang a little inauthentic. I asked myself, did a Black person really write this?
So much of what I really experienced as a creative is I reflected it in the film. I think that's what I did with my frustration around not being seen, not being valued. And the funny shit is, a lot of those people who were like, change the title, maybe Tiffany Haddish, okay. They're calling now. Oh, they're calling.
When was the first time you remember feeling seen for your work?
I did a couple plays, and one of them was for Color Girls, and that was the first time I remember feeling like if you work really hard and you work with a good director and a great cast, you can make something that feels intimate and personal and yours, but that belongs to this kind of longer lineage of greatness and of artistry. Having like a heavy monologue to dig into and having to talk directly to an audience was probably the first time that I at least felt like I was capable of something great that could have an impact on people.
I started acting in a theater program called MCC's Youth Company in New York, where they took kids from inner city youth around New York City, and from freshman year of high school to 1 year after you graduate high school, and where you could act and write your own stuff, but in order to act, you had to write your own stuff. You know, so I was 15 and I was learning myself on stage, and they say your voice matters. What do you want to say? How do you want to say it? So I think from a young age that kind of stayed with me. So I would navigate the world moving forward, like knowing that I had a voice. And so when people tried to take it away, I was so defensive.
I think the first time I felt seen was by the Black Lives Matter movement. I think when they adopted Rise Up as their anthem for the movement, that was when I first really felt seen, and when the purpose of the song really came full circle. In certain spheres, I'm like, you know, I want you to see me as a person, you know what I mean? So it's like, oftentimes people want to sort of put this label so they can figure out where to compartmentalize you, you know? But then there's also moments when I'm like, no, you have to see me. You have to see me as a Black woman. You have to see my Blackness. And you have to not let it be sort of a qualifier or a disqualifier. You know, I would always say there's an inherent invisibility that kind of comes with being a Black woman that we have to fight through.
I think for me, the first time I remember being seen for my work would probably be See You Yesterday. It's about two young Black children who build a time machine and they try to stop her brother from being killed. So that was the first time that I got to design young Black kids the way I see them. Also, just I'm totally grateful for this opportunity, you know, for various publications and, you know, organizations recognizing me in Hollywood. But young Black children, young children, like my cousins, my nieces, my nephews, like them getting excited about the clothes and them getting excited about things I'm doing means so much to me. I literally cried when I went to the Boys and Girls Club because when they introduced me, the woman who was emceeing was like, she did See You Yesterday, and everybody's eyes were like, yes. And like they all like audibly gasped, and I just started crying.
I remember when one of my nephews saw Glory in school, and he said he stood up and he goes, "That's my Aunt Francine! That's my Aunt Francine!" When my name went across the screen, and I thought, and I actually got a little embarrassed when I thought, wow, does my name have to go from one end of the screen to the other? I was really feeling a bit embarrassed about it.
No, you have to take up space. Take up space. We just have to keep unapologetically taking up space.
Oh, yeah.
When is the first time that you remember feeling seen for your work?
I don't know when the first time was, but I remember the first time I met Kerry. I don't know if you remember this, Kerry. I was in LA for the Emmys, because I was nominated, my first nomination. And we made eye contact across the room, and you smiled at me, and I was like, oh my God, Kerry Washington. I was like, I was very new in all of this, and I was like in New York, and I was in Hollywood, and I was utterly starstruck, my first Emmys. And you smiled at me from across the room with the biggest smile. I was like, oh my God, she's smiling at me. And then you walked up to me and said, how does it feel to make history? And it was the sweetest, I could cry thinking about it, because it was just so sweet and welcoming and just amazing. And I was like, oh my God, I love her so much even more. So yes, I don't remember the first time I felt seen from my work, but I remember the first time I felt seen by you, Kerry, and it was really beautiful. It was really beautiful. Thank you.
I'm not gonna add anything to that. I just am gonna cry for the next hour. It's so beautiful. I remember it. I totally remember it. And you know, I think part of why that was my question to you was to also say, like, you're not alone. You know, it was at a point in Scandal where that was such a part of what the conversation was the history. We were making the history. And I just also, I wanted you to know what a fan I was, but also that you're not alone.
And I think I said, you tell me, because you were in the same sort of position with the Emmys and with just starring in a network drama as a Black woman. Isn't that crazy? That's where we were. And here we are now.